The grounded legacy. Creating a life that honors who you are and who you are becoming. Welcome back inside the grounded circle. Today feels a little different because this is not just another episode. This is the closing conversation of our second journey together. Over these last several episodes, we have talked about unlearning the things that have weighed us down. We talked about letting go of the pressure to have it all. We talked about letting go of the belief that our worth comes from how much we can carry. We've talked about boundaries. We've talked about ambition. We've talked about finding grounding in the middle of chaos. And then we stepped into a season of becoming. We've talked about honoring the seasons of our lives. We talked about listening to our bodies and about transitions that shaped us. And through every conversation, there has been one common thread. How do we create a life that feels true to who we are? Not just a life that looks successful from the outside. Not just a life where we accomplished everything on the checklist, but a life where we are present, a life where we feel connected, a life where we are not losing ourselves while taking care of everything and everyone else. That question is the reason the grounded goddess exists. And it is the reason this podcast was created. For so many years, I think women have been given the same message. Do more. Be more, achieve more, push harder, keep going. And while ambition, growth, and achievement can be beautiful things, somewhere along the way, many of us forgot something important. We are human beings before we are human doings. Let me say that again. We are human beings before we are human doings. We are more than our accomplishments, more than our roles, more than our responsibilities, more than what we can provide for other people. And I believe there is a moment in many women's lives where we begin to ask a deeper question. Is the life I'm building actually a life I want to live? Not because everything is wrong, not because we don't love the people and responsibilities we have, but because we begin to recognize that we are allowed to want more than survival. We are allowed to want alignment. We are allowed to want peace. We are allowed to want a life where we can pursue our purpose while still honoring ourselves. That is the heart behind the grounded goddess. And for those who may not know, this podcast is deeply connected to my book, The Grounded Goddess. The book was born from many of these same conversations. It came from the questions I was asking myself, the seasons I was navigating, the lessons I was learning were about identity, purpose, motherhood, ambition, and finding balance in the middle of a very full life. But what I love about this podcast is that the conversations doesn't end on the page, because life is not something we figure out once. We continue learning, we continue growing, we continue becoming. And that is why I wanted to create the Grounded Circle. Because we are not meant to walk through the seasons alone. We need spaces where we can be honest. Spaces where we can talk about the things that are real. The beautiful moments, the difficult moments, the transitions, the questions we don't always say out loud. The moments when we are trying to figure out who we are becoming. And that is what this community represents. A circle. A place of connection, a place where we can learn from each other, a place where we can remember that growth does not require perfection. It requires presence. As I look back at creating this podcast, I want to acknowledge something. Start something new can be scary. Sharing your voice can be vulnerable. Putting your ideas, your stories, and your experiences into the world requires courage. But I have learned that sometimes the things that we are most hesitant to share are the things someone else needs to hear. Maybe someone is listening right now who needs permission to slow down. Someone may need to hear that they are not behind. Someone may need to hear that their current season has a purpose. And someone needed a reminder that they are allowed to become someone new. And if that is you, I hope you know this. You are welcome here. There is a space for you inside the grounded circle. This is only the beginning. Moving forward, I am excited to continue expanding these conversations. In future seasons, we will continue exploring life, growth, purpose, and finding balance. And I'll be bringing in additional voices, stories, and perspectives through conversations with guests who can offer their own wisdom and experiences. Because sometimes the most powerful growth happens when we listen to someone else's story and realize I am not the only one. So as we close this last chapter, I want you to reflect on something. What does a grounded life look like for you? Not someone else's version, not the version created by expectations, not the version based on comparison, your version. What would it look like to build a life where your goals and your peace can exist together? Where can your dreams and your well-being coexist? Where can you show up for the people you love without abandoning yourself? That is the journey. That is the becoming. And that is what we will continue exploring together. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Thank you for being a part of this second season. Thank you for stepping into the grounded circle and allowing this space to become what it's meant to be. Until next time, stay grounded, honor your journey, and remember, you do not have to choose between becoming who you are meant to be and honoring who you already are. You can do both. You are still becoming, and your story is still unfolding.